Hey everyone, welcome to Get Started in Sales podcast. We have, of course, the lovely Morgan. Hey, Morgan. And we have our guest, RPO. Quick intro on RPO. I've known him almost 10 years now, isn't it?
We're
That's
secretly
so
very
wild.
old.
So you guys met when you were eight?
Indeed.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. But we met at a tech
Pre-K.
boot camp.
Pre-K.
Yes, at pre-K tech boot camp. Both of us were like, in San Francisco. Um, like when you kind of like meet someone, and in your gut you're like, oh man, this guy's good. Like this guy's really good. He had this like it factor, and that was like literally my gut feeling. I was like, I really like this guy. Like you meet someone when you're a kid, and you're like, I want to be best friends. And I felt like doing that with you. I probably did do that at some point because we went out a few times during the boot camp.
Indeed.
But anyway, my gut feeling was right because at the end of the boot camp, we actually have to call for a company and we have to book a meeting to prove like, hey, we can do this. And
Hmm.
guess who's number one in the class and who booked a meeting? RPO. I think you're the only one who booked a meeting, which is amazing. But everyone was like,
Wind
we
beneath
knew
my wings. Wind beneath my wings, Ryan.
it. But then eventually, even more than just booking one meeting after a sales boot camp, he transitioned from, the reason that you should really listen to him is because, he was able to transition from a teacher. And let's face it, teachers don't make enough money. So he had to be a part-time server as well in San Francisco to live here. And then he transitioned from that boot camp to being like an SDR and ended up in MuleSoft eventually, which is like so impressive because they only take the elite of the elite. So, but I just want to really pump him up first before we start this podcast. But I'm gonna let him kind of take it from here to tell his story.
Build
But
me up before you break me down. Yeah.
not at all. But I mean, RPO, give your introduction, but if you can cover, like during the interview process for our listeners, like what do you say when when somebody says, "Tell me about yourself"? Because I mean, there's a lot to unfold, and you should make it, within like a minute elevator pitch. And then
Hmm.
two, we really want to know what our listeners want to take away from your story. And then third, and you don't have to do this in order or anything like that, but third, most important thing is like, what's your best advice? What's the must have before you jump into a sales career? And take it away.
Okay. So first and foremost, Ryan and Morgan, thank you so much for your generosity and that overwhelming, very glowing review of me and my it factor. I think my family would definitely say, please don't encourage him. Um, no, but it is my sincere pleasure when you reached out to me about, helping folks get started in sales. I thought, yes, this is really needed and compelling. And a lot of folks just don't know what they don't know. And I've definitely been part of that cohort for a very long time. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your podcast with y'all. So, okay, you asked me a three-part question. First and foremost, I'm Ryan Patrick O'Neill, but I go by RPO. So I don't know in what format people will be listening to this, but if you find me on LinkedIn, you can find me by my initials RPO, which is what everyone in tech calls me. But I'm technically Ryan Patrick O'Neill, according to several governments globally. So
Did you send your avatar today, or are you actually there?
my indeed, right, multiple folks. I have people who stand in for me from time to time. But no, I'm doing this. The real me is doing this
Nice.
live. So you would ask me specifically about what I tell interviewers about myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want to answer that with a non-answer because those really, really frustrate me. But I want everyone listening to give yourself permission to know and understand that it is not the same answer. And that snapshot in time of who you are, it really matters who's on the receiving end of that narrative, that conversation, um, their level within the company, where they play within the company, like their role, not only their level, but then also where you envision this conversation going to. And so you're planting the seeds in your intro to orchestrate a hopefully compelling conversation that is less of an interview, but more of a discussion and connection with a person who will potentially be your colleague soon. So it really depends on the role and the narrative I'm trying to convey to that interviewer, right? And building into that is an understanding of like, what does this person care about? What role do they play within, let's say, the 6 interview rounds, or for MuleSoft, I think it was 9 interview rounds. Like, what do they care about? What are the potential questions? So give yourself permission to ask the recruiter, what do they care about? What do they like? What do they dislike? Any pro tips that you can give me, back channel, talk to people. So then you can really tailor your message, not to be less than who you are and not to inflate who you are, but to really drive the narrative home that you want to deliver.
That is great advice. So I want to hear an example of like, so let's say Ryan is interviewing you and he is just going to be a peer. He's just your peer interview. He's not high up in the company. I mean, he's on the struggle bus. But he's interviewing. Tell us about
You're
yourself,
saying
RPO.
Pip is interviewing RPO.
You're probably going to be replacing
RPO.
him.
Okay, and what's the role that I'm interviewing for?
SDR.
Okay,
Or a BDR, entry level sales, setting a meeting.
got it.
You want me to cue you?
Entry level, and I am working potentially with him as a peer.
Yes.
Okay. A little bit about me, Ryan. It's great to meet you. I do have a diverse background. You're right. I have worked as a teacher. I've been in the service industry, but across all of those, I've had to very quickly build relationships, be able to capture the attention of folks who are potential decision makers, economic buyers, the people who are really invested in the student's education or the outcome of their event or meal that they're having at the restaurant. And I have to have a provocative point of view, like very quickly distill and understand what I think their challenges might be. They might be hungry. They may not understand how to add and subtract, but I'm able to weave a narrative and connect dots and build toward a solution, a resolution. Here's how we can work together to resolve your problems. And having the ability to quickly iterate and fail fast and then continue to move forward and have that grit and tenacity, that shines through everything that I've done in my past positions. So that IQ, EQ, and solutioning, it's like I'm truly curious. I want to see how we can work together and build that relationship, because who knows where the future will take us. And scene, something like that.
You had me at
Here's the job offer. Done.
I love it. Yeah, no, but I love how you answer that though. That portion too, but I mean like the original, because you're absolutely right. It's funny, like I just learned something from this podcast because you're absolutely right. And well, I always have my spitball elevator pitch, and I do everything in threes. So
I think
I'm
that's
always like,
technically called a spiel. It's a
yes,
spiel.
yeah,
Right.
and I have
But
that,
go ahead. Yeah.
and it always works for me in interviews. But like, I'm just a little different than most people. Well, that's what you want to convey.
I sincerely
Like
hope you are.
everyone's different. No, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're different. You're different.
Otherwise,
you're
I'm
different.
working with
Everyone.
an agent or a bot, right? An AI.
Yeah.
No.
No, exactly. But you're right though. When you talk to a higher level, you might have to change that a little bit. So that's a very valid point.
100%. Don't be less than who you are. Don't overinflate, but be uniquely you and drive the narrative home. Like have a direction. And I think that is critical for folks. I think the second part of your question was, what do we want listeners to take away or viewers? Know that you're in control of your destiny. What you believe to be true about you, who you are within yourself, your past experiences, your capabilities, your relationships, huge, your areas for growth, your aspirations, all of that come through in all that you do. So make sure that you are shining forth truly who you are, and you will actually be in control of your destiny. You're not on the receiving end, shall we say.
Yeah.
I think that that's really powerful, and I often forget that. So I would recommend that folks keep that. And then I think, what was the third part? It was most important thing to know.
Before you
before
jump
you jump
into or
into a
transition
career.
to yeah, a
Yeah,
career in sales.
yeah. Know before you leap. Understand what you're potentially getting into, right? Like read articles and understand what a day in the life or years in the life of sales looks like, and know that if you are jumping into a career in sales, similar to what I'm saying about you have to have a direction, it's your narrative. You in sales have to be tenacious. You have to be curious. You have to follow through on what you say you'll do and have a really good, I mentioned this earlier, have a good IQ or know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah,
And then have an even better EQ to really build relationships with your colleagues, with management, with various folks across your company, but then also your prospects and your customers, your clients, because you never know where those relationships will take you. And people buy from people, right? So that's
yeah,
absolutely critical. Knowing that those skill sets have to be within you, or it's not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's really where I feel like having a unique and diverse background before getting into sales is so valuable because you've already had like test runs of talking to construction, talking to engineers, talking to CEOs, talking to
Yeah.
doctors, talking to parents, talking to children. Like
Hmm.
that is all fantastic training for thinking on the fly when you're talking to a prospect, when you're interviewing.
Yes.
Like it's working that muscle. And I say this all the time, but I really feel like people underestimate how valuable those experiences are in sales and why you will shoot up so high.
A
Um,
100%. Morgan, you were like, yes, amen to that because
we're gonna start snapping.
yes, or the this, yes. So we're not making sound. I don't know.
what is
Um,
that?
But what you said is absolutely critical because the conversations, the twists and turns, doing it live is so important. I've also done improv here. I did the Second City Improv course here in Chicago, and I absolutely loved it. It's all about the yes and because if you are
Yeah,
simply saying, I'm going to get XYZ person to think this way or do this thing, but you build no connection, it's going to fall flat. And all of your unique experiences, there's someone mentioned something about, I don't know, they hate painting. And you're like, wait, hold on. You hate painting? I love painting. Give me more detail. It goes somewhere else. You've made a human connection. And they're like, that person might be oddball, but they'll remember the conversation and they'll want to engage with you as a human being. And also, you're elevating your life, right? Like you matter. I think it's really, really important. Diverse perspectives are key.
RPO. Why? So curious now. Why did you jump into? I mean, I know it's because it's you're in Chicago, but like, what made you go to an improv class?
Okay, so I was about to take a drink and I put that down.
There's a juicy story behind this one. I see.
There's a lot of context there, yes. And so we'll go out of chronological order, dear listener and watcher. We apologize. The pandemic shifted a lot of things in our world, and in live in 3D connection and interaction, I think for all of us really waned or became very attenuated, right? To like just a select few folks who we trusted to breathe the air with, right? Or who we were forced because they were our roommates or whatever. And I who I am as a human being. I need interaction and engagement with other human beings. And I actually need to be surprised. I need to be challenged. I want to be stretched and have no idea where this conversation is going to go in twists and turns, right? Because if you have meetings that I was in charge of in my role during the pandemic, where here's the agenda, here's what we need to do, I'm orchestrating this, I'm pulling all the levers and all of that. And yes, I'm building connection, but it's the exact same people all the time. And so when the restrictions were starting to soften up, I was like, I really need human beings and engagement and interaction. And I had just moved back home to Chicago. And I thought, now is the time. Let's go. Let's do this. So, does that help? That
That
muscle
helps a
was
lot.
atrophying, and I could tell. So,
Wow, though, but like,
um,
but it has nothing to do with helping you out in sales. But I'm sure it did, and you don't maybe you realize it, maybe you didn't.
100% it does and did
Yeah,
and will.
yeah,
and has the ability to yes and reframe and know to like understand and ask more questions and not shut things down is absolutely critical in sales. That curiosity, right? I
Yeah.
mean, clearly improv is not scripted. You have no idea where it's going to go, but you're building something together. Um, and so, yeah, it definitely dovetails perfectly into sales.
Yeah. No,
How long did
I
you do it
love it.
for?
I can't remember how long the course is. I think it's like a year-long program. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I've heard from multiple people that doing an improv class is just it's so valuable. And actually, Amy Poehler has a fantastic master class
Masterclass.
on
Yeah.
improv, the value of
Is
improv.
Masterclass sponsoring this podcast?
No, but they should.
They
I hope
should. They
they
should.
do.
That one was
Indeed.
amazing. Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, because like she puts herself on the spot, like I always, that's why Morgan is Morgan. Like she always puts other people on the spot. Like she put you on the spot today.
No,
But
but
like
it's a very good thing, and we
it
shouldn't be
is.
afraid of interacting. And okay, I'll get off my soapbox, and I know we have like a
No,
specific narrative that we
stay
want
on
to
it.
deliver for that,
Stay on
but
that soapbox.
I think often people are scared to interact with other human beings, strangers, right? We know who we know. We operate in maybe social media isolation bubbles, right? And engaging with other human beings and understanding their perspective and lens on the world is really awesome and also really refreshing where it's like, oh, you're not scary at all. You're a really great person. And you also were annoyed by the thing that I am also like, what is going on with, XYZ, at the airport or at the grocery store. And like just yesterday, I'm getting over something. That's why I'm drinking tea. I'm waiting in line for the pharmacy. And this man had forgotten his glasses, his readers, and he's buying something, not for himself, but he was told, he was instructed to buy this decoration, a holiday decoration, and he couldn't see what size batteries it needed. And I saw him looking around and I'm chatting with the pharmacist and I see out of the corner of my eye that he like just decides like I'm gonna flag this stranger and just be like, can you please tell me, does this take double A or triple A? Can you? And for 5 minutes, even the guy who could see was like, I don't know. Let's figure it out. Whatever. And they solutioned it together. And it's like, yay, human beings working together. And in the realm of sales and life in general, like you're going to have random interactions that can take you to really wondrous, awesome places. And you might be able to build something phenomenal together. So sales definitely presents that to you.
Yeah.
Yes. I
It
mean,
really does.
I feel like the number one skill that you need in sales is to feel comfortable talking to people. And
Yeah.
those who are comfortable talking to people, I'm like, just so you know, you have this career potential
Mhm.
because you simply have the gift of gab and can
Yeah.
carry on a conversation.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
offer people are not scary. I interrupted you, Ryan. People are
Oh
not
no, go ahead.
scary. They may be annoyed and assume that you're like everyone else and are just an automaton and want to like blurt out some stuff and just have an agenda. But if you're truly organically engaging, it's different. That's a pattern interrupt. Ryan, I interrupted you.
No, and you're the guest. You're supposed to. You're supposed to. You're the one supposed to be talking.
Again, my family's like, please stop encouraging him. Stop.
Yes. All right. Sorry, family. I will stop.
I can't
No,
wait
but
for the
it
comments.
actually just goes back to everything you said in the beginning. It's like be yourself because the more you share with yourself, like, say you're in like this like super corporate meeting, right? And all of a sudden you're like, hey guys, I just wanted to share this. I took a improv class. Boom. What happens? Everyone lowers their guard. They're like, took an improv class. Wait, why you take improv class? And start talking. They become that human, like the battery story. They become that
Yeah.
human to human interaction. They lower
Hmm.
their guard, and then all of a sudden you switch. And this is where the sales parts come in. You switch to business a little bit when you find the right moment. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden you could say, hey, just curious, like who actually runs your IT department? Is it, you do the operations and then that's the person who signs off on all the checks, stupid things
Totally.
like that. And then they just kind of just human to human really talk.
Hmm.
And there you
Yes.
go. And you find your champion and then execute a closed win.
100% build connection. That's all that really is in life. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've teased a little bit with like your unique background, your
Hmm.
unique experience that has led you to sales. Tell us a little bit more about what your job is right now, and then I'm going to rewind the time clock and go
Yeah.
back to how we got here.
Phenomenal. Will do. So currently, I work at a company called Tines, Tines, like tines of a fork.
Mhm.
It is a company based in Dublin, Ireland. Ryan Patrick O'Neill, born on St. Patrick's Day, works at this company. Amazing. And I am currently a partner account manager is my official title, and I am focused on expanding significantly our total addressable market. And the platform that I'm working with and working with our partners to sell is an automation and orchestration platform that helps workflows across the entire enterprise. It's really compelling, can be technical, but it's not scary in any way in regard to technicality. And the solutions that we can deliver for our clients and our partners are really powerful, really compelling. Um, I'll stop with the advertisement. Tines is hiring everybody listening. So if you are interested in a role, please DM me on LinkedIn and I can definitely connect you. I recently started at Tines, and my connection to Tines was actually circling all the way back to my start in tech sales. Talk about, the relationships that we build. My chief revenue officer, my boss, my global head of solutions engineering, our head of global XDRs or XDRs in North America, it may be global, don't want to diminish the role. All of them were my colleagues at MuleSoft. My first role in tech sales, all the way back in what was that, 2016. So huge, right? Like what I'm saying is totally true. The reason why I have this role is my current boss, who was my peer at MuleSoft, posted and said they were hiring, and I'm like, actually, I'm interested. Let's chat. So that's where I am currently, Morgan. Do you want me to take you back in time and bring you back to, I don't know, 2011, 2013 Bay Area and how I got into tech
Yes.
sales?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So um, we'll
And I know you
continue.
back a
Yeah.
little bit further to like then lead into that.
Say it again.
I know that you probably have to go back a little bit further to like explain your background and how you got into this tech boot camp.
100%. Yeah. So I moved out to the Bay Area with Teach for America, and I was already a non-traditional candidate or teacher within the realm of Teach for America. This was not my first rodeo. It was not my first job. I went back to school after a break or two. And once I completed my bachelor's degree, I'm like, okay, what do I want to do to solve the world's problems right now? The weight of the world on my shoulders, but I really did want to give back and had some amazing teachers. And so I was placed in the Bay Area with Teach for America, and I was a middle school math teacher, certified to teach anything through, high school in regard to math. But at the time, you had to take the first role that you were offered, and I was offered a role at Oakland Middle School.
Mm.
And so at Brewer Middle School, my heart is with y'all. Go Panthers. And I was a teacher of hundreds and hundreds of students and, unlocking their understanding of the world and having, deep conversations about where they're failing and what they don't understand and like leveraging that EQ to build a relationship, the IQ to connect the dots, weave the narratives, build the analogies, and maintain my curiosity about them and their lives to build the relationships, but then also tie back to like their potential, their power to grow. That zone of proximal development is really key in education. And I would offer the same is true in sales. Where is the bleeding edge that the client is failing at, and how can we help them in regard to what they're trying to do, but it's just not working well? So I was a teacher for Teacher America for 2 years. But realistically, I was doing very well. I was a high performing teacher, and I would offer that the bar was not necessarily the highest to do well in our public school education system. And I pursued my master's degree to understand like why is education this way, public education? How do we get here? And was shocked to learn that education is not um, a right in the United States, which really shocked me. And I thought, how can I make this better? How can I lower the barrier to entry and make outcomes more equitable for students? So, as I was finishing my Teacher America commitment, I pivoted to pursuing my own startup, and it was a nonprofit startup. And I really wanted to go from being an efficient cog in a broken machine to really helping that machine become better. And what I was taking from the classroom, those transferable skills that I think are really critical in sales for everyone listening, I was reading the room every single day, talk about doing it live, talk about improv. You've got 35 middle school children who are maybe going through puberty, love everything, hate everything, and oh, they don't want to talk about math. They don't want to do math, and they might be given permission to not even be good at math, because in the US, you would never say
Yeah.
to a student, "Oh, don't worry about it, babe. I, never learned how to read." No, no, no. But people say all the time, "I don't get math." But anyway, so reading the room, lots of EQ and relationship building, curiosity. I did a ton of listening, understanding and trying to learn about my students and what they understood and didn't understand, their families as well. Had to build out a lot of storytelling and analogizing to like solution things. And then also there's a lot of grit there. Grit is the opposite of quit and just keep on trying. So I took those transferable skills to, okay, let's build a startup in the education space as a nonprofit. But truly, I didn't know what I didn't know about tech and running my own business. There was a lot there. So I failed and was self-financing, living off of my meager savings from the classroom and was going near bankrupt. So I ended up pivoting back into the service industry, and hospitality in the service industry helped me pay my way through college many times over. So I ended up going back to being a server while I figured out what am I going to do next. I'm going to drink some tea. I just talked a lot
Yeah.
and my throat is going crazy.
No, I mean, I think that this is just, it's such a perfect fit, and we're so excited to have this conversation. I so enjoyed our intro conversation last week, just to kind of prep for this. But I mean, really, that speaking about being a cog in a broken machine, this is literally why we are starting Get Started in Sales, is because we
Yeah.
see the potential of sales and tech sales. And if it has greater diversity in all shapes and forms, it's going to be a better thing for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love that, like, yeah, that was just, it was a perfect value prop for why we're doing this and how aligned our hearts and minds are.
It's
So
like we should
Yeah.
talk about this and record it and then share it with the world.
we should, I
I
feel like
think
other people would benefit from this.
let me write this down. Just one. Yeah.
But RPO, I gotta say, your story, the amount of times you say help people
Yeah.
is so great, because that's really the why for sales, is to help people. And a lot of people don't know that in sales, because people think about sales, they always go to a car lot, salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing they go to all the time. Even me, when I think about sales, I think about that. But it's not. It's just a step back, and you're really helping people. But everything you said is just like, you help children, you help. There's the common thread, and that's what led you to being a great salesperson.
Well,
And
I
that's why we
appreciate
do it
that.
all
Thank
for
you.
free.
Say it again.
And that's why we do it all for free.
My gosh, 100%. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there is an ulterior motive as well. I mean, making a good amount of money and providing for you, your family, your loved ones, or your tribe, shall we say, is
Yeah.
absolutely an ancillary benefit. This is not volunteer work. This is a job. Um, yeah, helping, I think you have to believe that you are there to help,
Yeah.
or it comes off as not genuine, right? So if you
Mhm.
don't believe in the product or what you're saying, people can tell
Yeah.
it's not going to work. And so when I was able to have breakthroughs with my kids and my students in my classroom, they knew that I was their coach in regard to math. And I was letting them know, here's where you're failing. You can do better. I believe in you. I'm not upset with you just to be upset with you. I'm upset because I care. I am not, you know, unaffected by you falling over and skinning your knee or whatever. Like, I want to help you and build out those skill sets. And the same holds true when you're talking with a potential prospect or client. Um, my first land deal at MuleSoft, actually, I beat down the doors. This company, by the time we had our initial call, where I was actually talking to the person that I needed to book the call with, he said, "Yeah, aren't we booking a meeting?" And this is after, probably 200 calls where I've talked to every single person across the ecosystem. But I was able to communicate and plant seeds across all of those conversations that, germinated, and they understood, wow, we do have gaps, we do have challenges, and this guy RPO seems to have a solution. We should probably chat with him. And so that really breaks through, being
Yeah.
genuinely who you are and actually believing that you can help folks.
Gosh.
Okay. So,
Okay.
oh, sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
Oh, no, no. I was just going to transition because, I wanted to respect the time of RPO and I want to cut him off because I want him back for a second episode. So I don't want him to spill everything in
Oh,
this
okay.
one podcast. We want you to be the repeat person. But no, go ahead, Morgan, and I'll wrap it up.
No, so I was just going to say, so in the story, you've done your startup, now you're back in service jobs,
Yeah.
making money. How? What was the tipping point? What was the moment that you're like, I'm going to sign up for this tech sales boot camp?
Okay. So, um, it took me about 3 years. So I was pursuing my startup and, that tenacity and really want to make this work. It took me about 3 years from transitioning from the classroom, pursuing my startup and being in the service industry full time, to getting to the point where I'm working at MuleSoft. And this is in 2016, pre-IPO MuleSoft.
Mm.
So it took me 3 years. I was thinking through these transferable skill sets that I already mentioned. Where can they go? And I'm trying to understand how the tech ecosystem works and how I could be successful with this startup. And I mapped out companies that I actually admired and liked and thought about. I'm convincing strangers that walk in at high-end fine dining restaurants to consume this bottle that's like $1,200 of fermented grape juice just because I talked to them for a little bit. And yes, of course, they're coming in hungry and thirsty, but they could buy a $30 bottle of wine. And what is it that I'm doing uniquely that's allowing me to, outsell all of my colleagues? And I thought I can bring that to tech sales. So I really needed to pay the bills in a major way, and build, a nest egg because I had eliminated all of that while I was self-funding, shall we say, my pursuit at a startup. So how I got the role at MuleSoft, um, I actually cold outbound emailed the VP of Inside Sales, leveraging the skills that I, reassured myself that I had via the Tech Sales Bootcamp. That's how Ryan and I met. I cold outbound emailed the VP of the inside sales team at MuleSoft 3 times. So I didn't reach out to the person who would actually have been hiring the XDRs, shall we say. I emailed his boss. And by demonstrating what an XDR does day in and day out, and then when I, sent my breakup final email where I'm like, hey, I can surpass quota with a smile on my face and show others how it's done. I think there's, a lot of compelling use cases that I could elucidate, shed light on for various verticals given my diverse life experience. That breakup email actually triggered that VP to invite me to an on-site all-day interview with a cohort of around 12 other candidates, who were potentially my competitors. Um, and so, as I look back across the 3 years, we are the summation of all that we've done before. But my one regret is that I didn't give myself permission to go into tech sales sooner. Um,
Mm.
I can dive deeper into like the failing startup situation or the service industry and transferable skill sets wherever you want me to go, or um, I'm happy to dive deeper, or maybe there's a part two, Ryan. I'm not sure.
I think there should be a part two, and it's so funny. You actually just answered my last final question for you. You just answered it like 2 seconds ago. But I was just going to ask you if you were going to go back, whatever, 9, 10 years almost now. What would this RPO say to that RPO? And you could use your improv skills too if you wanted, like, use two characters.
Well, I mean, Right. Okay. So don't live your life in regret, obviously. But if I could talk to me 10 years ago,
Like imagine, like really think about it. I know this sounds so cliche and stuff, but I was like, I love this. Like I really thought about it. Like what position were you were? Like what kind of mindset did you have back then?
yeah,
And it's
I was
so different, you know?
I was being buffeted by failure. Real talk. Things
Mm-hmm.
were not going as well as planned. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, I'm in Silicon Valley. Like, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be able to do whatever. But I was applying and not getting roles. And I understood that, okay, they are not seeing in me what I know to be true. So I really need to show them, recruiters, that like I can do this. Hence the tech sales boot camp.
Yeah.
But being buffeted by failure and questioning yourself, I think that's the critical element. Like when your light starts to dim, you've got to remember that you know believing in yourself, and don't forget your life experience, like that which brought you to this day, right now listening to this podcast, it's critical to drive you forward, right? Like
Yeah.
build on that past and leverage your secret superpowers. I truly view your past as your secret superpowers. That folks on the calls and in rooms and interviews and random interactions with each other, they don't have what you have, right?
Yeah.
So being 100% you, confident that people people will be drawn to authenticity and your strength and character, your resolve, and ultimately your vision for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really it. That's a lot exact same situation I was in. But what I thought was so weird is like seeing Salesforce because I wasn't in tech before that, but seeing Salesforce maybe more confident in the interviews, and that's how I got the interview. That's how I got the job. Working at Blue Jeans, and it didn't take that long actually, but it's so weird because like you and I, we have work experience. We were older than the average SDR. And that's okay. You have to say to yourself, that's okay. I'm starting entry level, but that's like I think both of us got promotions in within like 3 months. But
Quite quickly, yes.
yeah, but the thing is like that confidence is like up there, but like the tech confidence that you need came from the boot camp because just it's weird seeing Salesforce, seeing an email outbound, what it is, and then knowing how to make a phone call and be efficient with
Yeah.
it and actually book a meeting. There you go. That built the confidence for me at least.
I think it's a combination, and I'm sorry, Morgan, if you were going to jump in there. I think it's a combination of being real and understanding your shortcomings. And so I was reflecting, why am I not landing conversations? What are they not seeing in order for me to pass? I know how to code switch and tell the narrative that I want the person to hear in order to get me to the next level. Again, not being less than who I am and not overinflating, but weaving narratives. I know how to do that, but I wasn't even getting my foot in the door. And that's why I identified, like, I know that I have the ability. Like, I have a master's degree. I know that I can, develop a provocative point of view and engage with people very quickly and get things done. But a tech recruiter may not see server as like, they'll have transferable skills, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to have that real reflection and understand, what is it that I can do in order to get to where I want to be. Maintain the confidence in myself, not have delusions of grandeur, and just be like, something's wrong with y'all. But clearly, okay, I understand why I think I understand why I'm not, and what can I do to get me that much closer to where I want to be. Yeah. While not forgetting, I am who I am, and that's a superpower.
And I so believe like the smart companies understand and value those diverse backgrounds. The companies that are led by people that have not done a lot of different jobs, have not had to hustle and get beat down a bunch of times, I feel like then they're looking for that cookie cutter, 5 to 10 years of direct sales experience, cold calling,
Yes.
what are your numbers?
Hmm.
And they're not seeing that how you went after that job was your first sales job. And that's what we say so much is the first
Yes.
job is to sell yourself and
100%.
to like tighten that up, gather all those background experiences. It is the sum of, you are the sum of those experiences, like you said, and being able to present it in a way that is consumable and relatable, and they know that you're going to take it to the next level of performance. So
Yeah, their vision of your weaknesses can actually be translated into your superpowers. They don't know what they don't know about you, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. RPO, are you pitching anything? Yeah, you want to leave or work? Any
Uh,
plug that you want to do right now?
I
This
honestly, I
is your
think I
spot.
did it at the top and maybe too much. I apologize, but
No, that's
I
fine.
am
I was
currently
like, are you
working
launching a beverage company that I don't know about? I don't know.
world domination. Um, um, I won't go into thirst trapping or anything on your podcast, like a beverage company, but no, there are amazing companies that are hiring, and I happen to work at a company that I think is phenomenal. And to your point,
That's awesome.
Morgan, quality people who are looking for good human beings who have tenacity, curiosity, IQ, EQ, and actually follow through and do what they say they're going to do. It's amazing how far that takes you. And so, if you're feeling beaten down, you got this. Believe in yourself, set sail, set your direction. Um, and Times is hiring, and there are many other companies that are hiring. And so I'm being sincere. If folks are interested, I'm happy to help with that. I'll let you know about my beverage companies in the future, perhaps on
Well,
part two.
that's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to part two. And for everyone listening, RPO did say you have to go through our boot camp before he introduces you to Times. No, I'm just kidding. But our boot camp is free right now because we're trying to help people.
That's
Just because,
phenomenal.
yeah, well, it's just there's so
That's
many
so
people out of a
great.
job, and we don't know how long it's going to be free for. But I mean, right now it is free, and we're helping people. We're giving them our network. A lot of people reached out recently on my last post and said we're willing to help, and some people are pretty high up because our network is pretty big. So please go through the boot camp. We're customizing everything right now, and then reach out to our network. And RPO, thank you so much for being at the podcast.
Thank you so much, Morgan and Ryan. It was my absolute pleasure. I'm not exactly sure when this is coming out, but I hope everyone had a happy holiday season. And here's to a phenomenal 2025.
Yes, thank you.